Thank you for listening to Eyes and Teeth. Can you believe it's already season 2, edition 3? I want to tell you one of my favourite stories before we start. This is the story I was told on a cruise ship, which is where a lot of the stories behind the scenes are told. All the acts get together. This was told to me by Mark Walker. Now, Kirk Douglas of Spartacus has a few sons. And not Michael, but another, and I'm not sure of his name. But he was in a comedy club in the United States and was on stage actually doing stand-up and being heckled by the audience. The audience knew he had a famous father, but it didn't stop them hurling abuse at him. And he had enough, so he shouted into the mic, "I am Kirk Douglas's son," really angry. As he finished that line, a heckler stood up and shouted, "No, I'm Kirk Douglas's son." And then another stood up at the opposite end of the club. "No, I'm Kirk Douglas's son." And it dominoed into a moment that had the room in stitches. I really do hope that's true, because every time I hear it or tell it, it makes me laugh. And what a genius set of hecklers to work together in that spontaneous moment. If anyone is listening that can confirm the story, and I've had it confirmed by a few comedians, but please get in touch. I'd like to talk to you if you was actually in that room at that time. I'm loving talking to funny people. They are people I've enjoyed watching on stage, on TV, or people I've been lucky enough to work with. Today's guest is just that.
Oh, conversational.
In 2002, we lost one of the good guys, Wally Dent, a great agent, a manager. Wally saw potential in me and helped me get my first cruise and pantomime. He put me in those social clubs. And I remember one which was with the Mersey Beat legends, Yanni, great guy, and his band, and Greg Rogers. Greg was a Liverpool comedian who stormed it on the ships. And he did on this night. He gave the audience funny line after funny line. He just delivered. After this gig in the social club in Surrey, I booked the band, Yanni and the Mersey Beat legends, for my dad's 50th birthday. It was just one of the most memorable nights that we had. And my dad was made up. It's the first time I've seen him dance. We spent weeks with Greg Rogers on the Braemar cruise in 2002 at Christmas, when he was on for 6 months and I was on with Nina for 3 months in the Caribbean. I remember standing at the bar one afternoon with Greg. In the sun, we're having a beer, and he asked me if I'd just heard the news that Maurice Gibb of the Bee Gees had just died the previous day. I reminded him that Jim Henson was the same age, 53 years old. And Greg said to me, "Can you believe it? I'm 53. Maurice Gibb was 53. A week later, Greg died whilst we were in the Caribbean. It shocked us, the acts on board, Andrew Robley, Rachel Harvey-Jones, me and Nina. The night before, we performed the farewell show, where all the acts would perform in a variety show together at the end of the cruise to say farewell to the passengers. And watching Greg before this moment, he would perform the Chaplin song Smile, singing, "Smile though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking." Then he would stop the band playing, deliver a line, get a laugh, and carry on the song. "When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by." He'd sing it better than me, but then he would stop the band and tell a joke. That was the routine. It was brilliant. He earned a standing ovation from it every time. It was so moving and showed the signs of a great showman. It was strange because the night before he was taken to hospital, he got to the end of the act and sang Smile to finish, and I noticed that he didn't stop the band once. He sung the song straight. I went back to watch the second show that night, and he did the same again. It was Smile all the way through, but without the jokes. It seemed to me that either he was in pain and didn't want to prolong the show by stopping the song, or he knew that this was his last show. Sadly, I had seen Greg's last show that night. It was brilliant. He was brilliant. But he passed away aged 53. Wally Dent knew great talent. He was Jim Davidson's manager. He took on Paul Adams, the comedian. Not forgetting the brilliant ventriloquist Chris Bylett with Desmond the Duck. Tucker, the comedian, and of course Kevin Devane. Kevin spoke very highly of Wally, as everyone did. Wally was godfather to Kevin's daughter, Caroline, so they were close. And Kevin called him one of the best friends anyone could have. That's so nice to hear. Speaking of managers, it reminds me of a boo-boo I made in one of my past podcasts with Hilary O'Neill. On edition 9, when talking about the Royal Variety Show, I mentioned I had not had a manager that could take me that step further to the Royal Variety. But Brian Marshall, who managed me from 2004 to 2006, did try, and I remember an email shortly after he put me forward. It came back saying because Avenue Q was featuring that particular year, they couldn't consider any other puppet acts on the show. So for his putting me forward, at least, I thank Brian Marshall for that. Thanks, Brian. He did what he could for me. My reasons for entering TV talent shows were all Royal Variety performance related. The Big Talent Show with Gary Bushell on my last edition was a great prize. It was all down to Gary Bushell choosing his favourite acts from that year's series to put onto the Royal Variety performance. And in 1996, Paul Zerdin won that first series, and he appeared on the 1997 Royal Variety. And from the 1997 Big Talent Show, he picked 4 acts to appear. They were Stephen Mulhern, Andy Leach, Andy Ford, and the series winner Lydia Griffiths. 16 years later, I had another shot when I got to the finals of Britain's Got Talent, 3 places away from my top prize. I came 4th. But I was the wild card, so my mum calls me a winner to this day. Back to Wally Dent. I and Nina were invited to Wally's 60th birthday party. I was honoured he invited me, and there I saw Paul Adams, Kevin Devane, and after that he asked if he could manage me. But it came at a time when he sadly was taken from us, just after his 61st birthday. It was a huge blow to the business. I'm so glad he was part of my life, even if it was just a few years. He was a great man. I love that my guest today and I have that connection with Wally. So today's edition, I talked to a fantastic comedian, Kevin Devane. We talk about his material, his TV work in different circuits, writing, and why did he use a chair in his act. Kevin was a redcoat in Butlins, Clacton, 1975, the year I was born. He went on to work every major British nightclub. I'm talking Lakeside in Surrey, Circus Tavern, Purfleet, Leicester Stardust, all the top clubs, and numerous appearances at the London Palladium. Kevin has also appeared with many international stars, including Tony Bennett, James Galway, Roy Orbison, and President Clinton's favourite saxophonist, Kenny G. There's another connection. So Kevin constantly updates his act. Such fresh material, really funny material. And he can perform for any corporate clients, after dinner speeches. He would tailor make his material to suit that client's business, incorporating personalities from within the company. They love that. TV credits include Five Alive, Live at the Palladium, Live from the Piccadilly, The Comedians, Summertime Special, The Patter Merchants, as well as his own Sky TV half-hour special, which is the equivalent of today's Netflix specials. I love watching Kevin. His fast delivery doesn't give people a chance to breathe between jokes, and there's nothing wrong with laughing constantly. If laughter is the best medicine, then Kevin is a lifesaver.
Eyes and teeth.
I read a story about a man who's claiming he's been made impotent by drinking hot chocolate. Now, it's his own fault. It's his own fault. He should have stirred it with a spoon like the rest of us. You can't believe stories. There was a thing in the paper, it was a little while ago now. Do you remember the lady? She had twins and they were born 19 days apart. Do you remember that? And I thought, that was okay, but wouldn't it have been awkward if it had been Siamese twins? Uncomfortable, isn't it? But,
Kevin Devane here, who I've known for at least 25 years, I think. Was it 20? I remember seeing you, was it possibly on a flyback in 99? Is that right?
We did to Corfu.
Almost.
Agios Gordius.
Oh, you remember the hotel? Wow. That was it, Agios
I remember the
Gordius.
hotel. I remember your big trunk that you had with all your gear in.
Yeah, prop comics, eh? Aren't they annoying?
Yeah.
So-
I think I had a suit carrier. That was it, that trip.
Yeah, isn't it nice just to walk on the stage, Kevin? Just to go on and do what you do.
Bonus.
Everything's in your head, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you have nothing, yeah.
Yeah, I've
I
recently...
don't know about you, but I travel, when I'm joining a ship, I travel in like dark jeans and a jacket.
Yes.
So even if my luggage doesn't turn up, I can go on stage and from the audience it looks like I've got a suit on.
That's nice, yeah. You have prepared, really. And even after all these years, I still wear the wrong thing. I think I can't wear that on stage. You know, you try and be comfortable on the way, don't you? And then you don't get your luggage. But I've lost all my props, so you can still go on.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I feel for you. For you guys, that's really hard, isn't it?
It's happened a few times as well. I think I was in South America and I sat on a ship for 12 days with no luggage, no clothes. I just had a pair of jeans. And one of the acts lent me a jacket
God.
just so I can come out and have a drink, so that's crazy. But it's,
Yeah, I remember, who's that? Nick. Oh, Nick, I forgot his surname. We did an Antarctica cruise on Seabourn, and his luggage never showed up
wow.
for the whole trip. And obviously, we don't go in anywhere. And then it was the Chilean Lan Air, and so then they arranged that they would fly his gear to the Falklands, and when we got to the Falklands, he'd get the gear. And then the ship never made it to the Falklands. Nothing to do with us anymore.
Yes, the other way
We had
round.
to freight it from the Falklands.
Blimey.
Yeah.
So the freight was chasing you all around the Mediterranean or the Falkland Sea.
Well, this was the Antarctica.
Antarctica, yeah. I don't know my quizzes. my geography's not what it used to be. Yes, it's crazy, isn't it? Because if they can't catch up with you to give you your luggage, and then you're never going to get that luggage at the end of the day. I mean, at the end of this 12 days in South America, my luggage got to Buenos Aires, which is the port I was flying home from. So I got my luggage after 12 days, but to fly home with. So they flew it out there. I went on holiday. I met up with the luggage 12 days later and went home. So I never got to perform. Oh, it's crazy times.
Oh, no, I've always had to perform. Well, again, it's different for me because I think the longest I went without it, though, was about 10 weeks.
Really?
And it did eventually show up. Yeah, I'd just about given up, and the suitcase, it was like Christmas. There was stuff in there I had.
Well, that's the beauty of being a comic, isn't it? And you are one of the standout stand-up comics I've worked with. I just recently watched you on Stand and Deliver. What an audience there. And you had them in the palm of your hand.
They were amazing, weren't they?
Yeah, wasn't that a good show? In the 90s, wasn't it? Was it a Jongleurs? That was filmed at Jongleurs?
Yeah, it was Jongleurs, yeah. The night I recorded was Cannonball did a show, Ian Irving.
Wow.
There was another guy, I forget, it was 4 of us all together. But I was first on, so it was beautiful. It was like virgin snow. No, nobody was treading on anything.
Yeah, so I mean, they were up for it. A comedy audience ready for those 4 live comedy shows. They must have been in a great mood.
And the thing with that particular show, they were sort of saying, "Oh, be blue." But I thought, well, I'm not going to be blue.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And that was the best way. A friend of mine did do it, and he did go a bit blue. And he was so fed up afterwards because there was nowhere he could use it as a show reel or anything.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you got to think ahead as well, haven't you? The only blue bit you did was about the birth of a child when it was a Smurf. You thought it was a Smurf.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
That was great.
Not really blue even then. Not for a show that went out 11 o'clock at night.
No, of course not. I mean, you're not a blue comedian. You're just enjoyable to watch, and the whole routine you do about the birth of your child and the sponges it's brilliant. It's great.
You just get too old to do it. You become a granddad and you can't really do that one anymore.
Oh, really? So you do move with the times? That kind of reminds me of when Ray Allen got older and he started going grey, and he changed Lord Charles he put like a grey wig on Lord Charles, so he grew with his act. Is that what you've done over the years? You've grown with your act?
Yeah, you have to really, because you can't sort of talk about things in the same way when you're at an age when that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's true. If you're a teenager, you can't talk about being married.
Mum and dad.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And I would do stuff about my mum and dad, and or my grandparents. And I still do a little bit about my dad. But say he's 91.
Right.
Feasibility he could be. So it's not that I can still just about do that.
Yeah.
You obviously can't do grandparent stuff anymore.
Sure. No, but so it has to be believable for you as a performer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you go out there, you have to have a semblance of truth. If you're just talking, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing anybody to look at or anything. You just got to buy into it.
Yeah, but they do. The audience do.
I try and hit quite a few anyway.
Yes.
So people say to you, "Oh, what about if you get hecklers?" I said, "Well, I've never really had hecklers because I work pretty quick."
That's true, yeah.
There's never really room for them to get in.
Yeah. Do you have a rule where you've got like laughs per minute, or you just do your lines?
No, I just bang them out really. I remember hearing an American lady on a ship once overheard, and she was saying to her friend, "Well, I didn't get all of them, but I knew there'd be another one straight behind."
That's a lovely description, isn't it?
And that's the same as yourself, It's just, you've got to get laughs, and you need as many as you can. Everybody delivers it in a different way, don't they?
Definitely, yeah. But on this show I saw recently, though, that there were big laughs as well. I mean, nearly every laugh was a big laugh, and it's so nice, and because you're just flowing, you do the big laugh, you let them laugh, and you're straight back in though. You don't wait. You're straight back into the next line, and it all links together as well. The story is you're a great storyteller.
Yeah, I've always done that ever since I started. You know what it's like on TV. You know yourself, it's a different guy. I remember I did one years ago called Summertime Special.
Yes.
And it was a spot you would die for. It just every line worked. And everybody after the show said, "Oh, this is the one, Kev, this is the one," you know. And then the top of the bill overran, and they edited me down. It was still good, but it wasn't as good because a lot of it was lost in the edit.
That's a shame.
That's TV, isn't it?
The producers have to know what to do, don't they? I mean, like with the series, The Comedians, how do they know when to edit? Because not every producer, I think Johnny Hamp was producing that, so he knew what he was doing. But I mean, when you go on there, like Summertime Special, if they're going to edit a gag, they should liaison with the actual act, so you know not to cut off the punchline, you know, and that happens. It's happened to me. Yeah.
Oh, and sometimes I did another Summertime Special with an Irish comic he was so funny. I mean, you know yourself, they bring you down to rehearse in the afternoon.
Yes.
And you do it that night. They had him there all weekend, and apparently he did a different show every rehearsal. He was so funny. The crew booked him for their Christmas party.
Wow.
And I had to follow him. I was stood at the side of the stage, stood with Bob Voice from International Artists.
Okay.
And I said to Bob, "God, how am I going to follow this, Bob?" He said, "Don't worry, you don't have to follow it." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "He won't be on the show." I said, "Why not? It's brilliant." He said, "There's no edit point in the whole spot." And there wasn't. He was completely cut out of the show.
Wow.
And
That's
yet he
sad, isn't it?
ripped the place up. He was so funny.
That's crazy, isn't it? I've heard about acts actually, sort of named acts, and if you're supporting them, you've done a lot of support in your time, haven't you? You've done a lot of support for acts. But if you're funnier than that act you're supporting, they don't always like it, do they?
Oh, controversial.
Have you come across that at all?
Yeah, there was a guy, big name at the time, and in fact it was sweet because he couldn't follow me the first night of the tour.
Wow.
And tried to have me put off the tour, but luckily he didn't realise I was only deafened for the first night anyway.
Okay.
So I wasn't even going to be on the rest of the tour, so he just made himself look stupid.
Yeah.
But no
Wow.
names.
No, of course not, but that's a compliment to you.
So the other day, funnily enough, I was going through, I'm writing the biography at the moment, I was going through it, and I looked since 1980, I've done 7,018 shows.
Wow, that's incredible. Since 80, that's 40 years of. How do you fit all them in? That's crazy, isn't it?
Well, back in the 80s when I was doing 300 shows a year.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you think about the music hall days and things. A lot of comedians would just do 10 minutes, but they do it like 5 or 6 times a night. They only had 10 minutes.
That's right.
But you have probably got a lot more than that, haven't you? Well, obviously more than 10 minutes, but how much material you think you've written over the years? Because it literally, you do move with the times. And if you're on cruise ships, you will talk about being on the cruise, or you talk about being in that town, if you're doing a summer season. So,
of course,
observational, that's what you're really well known for.
Yeah, you look through it and, you look back. I was looking at an old video the other day. I thought, God, I'd forgotten that routine. And I wonder if that would work again. And I forget what it wasn't, but it would work again now because it wasn't anything that was dated.
Okay, yeah.
And you just stop doing them. And I tell you what it is, I change like a line at a time. And I remember going on a ship a few years ago. Again, it was a Seabourn, and Jen Stearman was the cruise director. And I came off, and she hadn't seen me work for, I don't know, 6-9 months, something like that. And she said, "Wow, there's a lot of new material there." I said, "Is there?" I said, "I don't know, I didn't realise." Because it just goes in a line at a time.
Yeah, and you forget that you've taken one out. You forget that you stopped doing it.
So over a year, it changes quite a bit, but I don't realise it's changed.
No, that's true, isn't it? That's
You
like
find the same thing.
Yeah, I do. It's like putting on weight. I don't know I've put on weight, but when people see you and go, "You've been eating a lot," and it's like, "Oh, I didn't notice."
Yeah.
I guess it's like that.
No, you don't, do
Your act gets fatter, or like Ken Dodd. Someone told me the other day, Ken Dodd would do that. He would put a gag in, but he never took them out. That's why he done 5 hours.
That's right.
Yeah, which is lovely.
I remember Jimmy Tambly telling me years ago when he supported Ken Dodd on the tour.
All right.
And he said it was a nightmare. He said because Ken always wanted to do a walk down at the end. He said, by the time you went on at the end, everybody had forgotten who you were anyway.
A walk down at a Ken Dodd's.
5 hours later, yeah.
Yeah, at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Tell me that,
Oh, that's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, yeah. I only met him once, but I really liked him. He was
Yeah,
just a nice guy.
I liked Ken. I worked with him for 3 years, and he was brilliant to watch. I mean, to turn to your left and see him standing in the wings was just something to remember. You know, it's brilliant.
Nice and Steve.
But last year, I went to see Seinfeld in London, Jerry Seinfeld. And what a comic.
Right.
And Billy Connolly I've seen as well. And those two comics, you remind me of, you know, those sort of storytellers, those brilliant, I mean, how quick they are as well.
Billy Connolly, I love Billy, especially his early stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I saw him in '96 live in London. I saw him in the same venue 30 years later. I saw him 2 years ago. So literally that far apart. And he was still as funny. You know, you never leave. It never leaves you as a comic, does it? That your mind is still just bang, bang, bang.
I hope so.
Hopefully, yeah.
I think timing's the thing you never lose. Yeah, if you have time and you've got it and that's it, you can hone it. But if you haven't got it,
yeah, there were some great comics around the. I mean, even on television, there were some great comics in the '80s and maybe even the '90s. But it's changed a hell of a lot, hasn't it, over the last 30 years, Kevin?
Huge amount.
Yeah.
Huge
What do you think of today's TV comedy?
I mean, something that I really like, something that I have to say, it leaves me cold. But that's probably an age thing. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, some of it's clever. I've discovered one recently. James Acaster is a very clever wordsmith. Really, I mean, he's a really funny joke teller.
I know the name. I don't watch a great deal, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched TV for a year. We're on box sets at the moment, or I watch what I want to watch, you know, and pick the comics I like to see.
Exactly the same.
It's different. Do you like American comedy?
Yeah, I love American comedy. I always say people will say to me, "Oh, who's your favourite?" I said, I don't really have a favourite per se.
Yeah.
But I always say the best timer of a line ever was Bob Newhart.
Yes, he wrote books, didn't he? He wrote some good books about comedy.
He never wasted a breath.
Yeah.
He never wasted a breath. Every single line was crafted. I remember the first time I ever heard Billy Connolly was on a cassette. I was out in Mallorca selling beach party tickets, so it would have been 1973.
Okay. Wow.
And these Scottish says, you got to listen to this. I couldn't understand a word he said. He was so broad. You know, in the early 70s, he had to learn how to tone it down a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
He literally was...
Wow.
The crucifixion scene and all that.
Yeah.
I understand it.
I'm the same with John Bishop. I couldn't understand John Bishop really that much. And then I thought, I'll give his biography a go. And then I couldn't read his writing. Hey, I thought I'd get one in. Yeah, I've only done that once on stage.
In comedy, it is funny when you... I mean, I did a Falklands tour with Lee Evans.
Yes, wow.
And, you know, you could see even then, way before he became a name, you could see he had something there.
Yeah.
And I
you can tell, can't you?
Very clever.
Mm.
Yeah.
What was it like working those Falklands gigs? Did you enjoy doing those? Were they tough? Obviously tougher than doing a theatre at home, but were completely different audiences, or did you thrive on it?
Yeah, I love them. Absolutely love them. I did so many. I don't know, Northern Ireland, the Falklands, Belize, all those ones.
Wow.
They were just great fun.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm looking forward to your biography, Kevin. Is that a big mixture of everything you've done?
It starts in 1958.
Okay.
And I'm now up to 1992.
Blimey. So it takes time, doesn't it? You know, when you start writing about something that you've done, like a season or just one night, talking about one night doing comedy, it all starts to flow, doesn't it? Things coming to the book gets bigger than you expected when you first started it. Wow, I remember this and this. It all comes back to you, doesn't it?
And you have to be... I've had to suddenly start to be a little bit more editorialising because from 1990 onwards, I've kept a diary.
Right, brilliant.
So I can look back at the diary now.
Okay.
And then you think, the book doesn't want to be a diary. It's not, it needs to be funny and it needs to move. So you have to edit. Whereas before it was purely from memory.
Yes.
So it's getting a bit more involved now. So I'm having to cut it out a bit, But no, the army shows I used to love. I used to have some real laughs on, and the stuff you get to do on them, you know. Yeah. The little things they used to let you do were brilliant.
And was you observational within the army? I mean, it's quite a sensitive subject, isn't it? They need to have their minds taken away from the situation they're in. So, how did you approach doing one of those gigs over there, or did you just do your act?
It was a lot harder.
Yeah.
I was a lot, a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
But in those days, I was anyway. You know, in the old days, I used to do stag shows and all that sort of thing. I was very aggressive.
Oh,
That
blimey.
was just a defence mechanism. That's how you had to get through them.
Yeah. Is that why you had a chair with you on stage? Was that like a weapon, or you used to stand on a chair, didn't you?
I used to walk over it, constantly walk over it.
Okay, and you never made reference.
Step backwards and forwards over it.
Okay.
Well, the trouble with it was, it started as a little girl kept running out the audience one night on the Isle of Wight.
Okay.
About 1980 something, and just kept kicking me. And when I went back the next week, just to make the band laugh, I kept jumping on this chair and said, I wonder if was that she here, she here. And I thought, oh, hang on,
That's brilliant.
This is getting laughs.
Wow.
Yeah. But you know the bad thing about it was?
No.
It stood me out. I remember Louis Anderson, the American comic, when I did Live at the Palladium, he said, oh man, we've heard about you in the chair in the States.
Really?
But the thing with it was, but the thing with it was, television didn't like it. Because they had to keep going to long shots. So that's why I stopped doing it in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Plus
interesting.
it was where it wore you out.
Getting up and down. Yeah. I mean, you just walked out. I remember doing the flyback with you in that Thompson Hotel, and you would, the chair would be there, and then what's he going to do on the chair? And you just walk over the chair and stand on the chair.
The chair's still there. I still have the chair.
Yeah.
But I sit on it occasionally now.
Did you ever make reference to the chair, or did you just use the chair as a prop?
Never mentioned it. People said, what's that chair for?
That's brilliant.
And in fact, when I stopped doing it, I was on a theatre tour, and we came up with this idea. After a couple of days, I used to have a table instead of a chair, and a kettle on
Well,
it.
it's upgraded.
And halfway through the show, I'd flick the kettle on, and you see people looking at it, you know. And I'd say to a woman in the front row, "Do you want a cup of tea?" And I used to make her a cup of tea. And I'd have a cup of tea.
That's brilliant.
It was great. But by the end of the tour, I had tea, coffee, biscuits, cakes. And I used to have a proper tea break halfway through the show. It's brilliant. But then again, when I started doing ships, you can't do it on the ships. Because
No.
everybody's got a drink.
Oh, that's
So
true.
it's no big deal to say to someone in the front row, "Do you want a cup of tea?"
Well, you just take a little buffet table down there, then they'd love that, wouldn't they? Anyone like a vol au
I used
vent?
to love it. Yeah, it was a real tea break in the middle of the show. I loved it.
Just coming from that chair. Oh, I love that. I didn't know the chair story. I love that. It's got a backstory to it. It's nice.
Oh yeah, that was honestly, it was just the following week. It wasn't even that week. It was the next week.
Was it?
Wait a minute.
Different audience.
There's something on here.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, different audience. Yeah.
And you're great. You're great at callbacks as well. You do callbacks, don't you? You know, when you're talking about something and then you get on with your story, but then you come back to that. That's a really clever way of tying up your show.
I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, you're a genius at doing that. I love watching you.
I wish I was. I've got away with it for 40 years.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading it, Kevin. Really am. I love that you're writing a book. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's going to take another few months, but I'm enjoying it. You're doing one as well. You're right.
We've got a few months, Kevin, haven't we?
Do you have
Mine's.
anything in for the rest of the year?
I've supposedly got some Butlins at the end of the year, and I've got some Warners that have come in. So these Warners are all in August, October,
Right.
November. So they're spread out.
They're supposed to be happening still, aren't they?
Well, hopefully. I mean, there's a social distance aspect to it, but will it work? I don't know. If I mean, hopefully it'll work. I mean, I had some Butlins booked in, and they just got back to me yesterday and say, well, they're now going to be outside, and you can't. There's not going to be an audience if it's raining. And every time I go to Skegness, down. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to work.
Years ago, I saw Bob Monkhouse been interviewed on something, and he said, and I agree 100%, comedy is not an outside thing.
Yeah, it's not.
Comedy, you need to be indoors, really. We've all done shows outside, you can get away with it, but it's an intimate thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and even in a marquee, it changes it, doesn't it? I mean, the comedy festivals at Edinburgh, not Edinburgh, but like Glastonbury now have comedy tents, but at least they are inside, they're not outside.
Yeah, at least they're inside, yeah, no, it's something about being outside where it just seems to fly off into the ether, doesn't it? The gags get lost.
Yeah, it's not as funny. You got to be entrapped in a room, which hopefully we can get back again sometime. Well, I hope you're back on stage, mate. Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much.
No, it's a real pleasure.
Yeah, let us know when the book's out. It'll be fab. I'll spread that for you. Thank you, Kevin.
Excellent. Cheers, Steve.
Love to Kate. Cheers, buddy. Bye.
Cheers. Bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Nice and Steve.
The brilliant Kevin Devane. Check out his clips on YouTube. I want to thank Lola, Larissa and Nina Hewlett for their vocals. Thank you to Rich T. And thank you also to Mr. Kevin Dean for all of our Eyes and Teeth jingles and theme music. Today's quote comes from Bob Newhart. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but Margaret Thatcher's favourite comedian was Bob Newhart. She had a sense of humour. But if you watch Spitting Image, thanks to Steve Nallon, you'll see she did have a sense of humour. Bob Newhart. When you're going for a joke, you're stuck out there if it doesn't work. There's nowhere to go. You've done the drum roll and the cymbal clash, and you're out on the end of the plank. Bob Newhart. I was not influenced by Jack Benny, and people have remarked on my timing and Jack's timing, but I don't think you can teach timing. It's something you hear in your head. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Eyes and Teeth. Next time, I'll be talking to the brilliant comedian and actor, Mr. Jeff Stevenson.